Yeah.
It's about time. Repent! And thou shalt be saved. Yes! Listen to the wise words.
Yeah,
Repent.
welcome back to another episode of Off the Books, episode 50.
It's like the fourth one we've done today, so bear with us.
Where did you get your info? No, where'd you get your information?
Where'd you get that from?
Where'd you get that from?
So we're talking about advice, counsel,
Yep.
your own ideas. Where'd you get it from?
Where'd you get it from?
Think about it.
Yeah.
It's kind of important. So these deep conversations are the ones that we like to have here on Aletheia Radio. But before we like to have these conversations, we like to give you a little taste of what's happening in the world, don't we?
What do we want to do?
We want to talk about what's going on in the news. That's right.
That's right. Right to it.
It's that time again, Aletheia Radio's News at 8, with the two most ravishing hosts on the face of the planet, giving you the goods on what's going on in the world, because we are in the world.
But not of it.
But not of it. That's right. So we got a couple good things going on. A couple of crazy things going on, actually. So I think we'll get to the topic that's on everybody's mind tonight.
Yeah, what is that?
Orange Man Bad.
Bad orange man.
Yes. Yes, that's right. He looks like the Kool-Aid Man, but a different shade of color. He has proclaimed his arrest on Tuesday.
He's prophetic.
Yes, the prophetic arrest of Donald Trump from the mouthpiece himself. Yeah, so he says he's going to be arrested. He's going to be arrested based on something that happened, I believe it was 2014, that they were trying to hammer him with on 2016, which is the Stormy Daniels case. Everybody knows about it. It's very old news, ironically enough. Old news somehow became new news again. But what's funny is that like even Stormy Daniels, so the situation with it was she wanted to get a spot on The Apprentice, I believe it was. He said, yeah, listen, you're going to have to do something for me. It's going to be fantastic. And she fell for it. And she did it. And he didn't come through. He didn't put her on The Apprentice. Probably with good reason. But it's not good exactly what he did. You don't manipulate people, but still, manipulating a woman for that type of act is not illegal. But what they're trying to say is illegal is the money that he used to pay her off. So Mueller is the one that he authorized to pay her off.
And it doesn't even fall in the jurisdiction of New York.
And it doesn't even fall under the jurisdiction of illegal because people pay people off all the time through court cases. It happens all the time.
Settled. Yeah, you settled
out of court. That's what it is. I'm not defending his morality at this point. I'm not. What I actually want to get to is the fact that what they're doing is extremely political and it's obvious. You know, so 2024 is coming up. The elections are coming up. And this stuff always happens.
And actually what's interesting is because, especially with our conversation tonight, where do you get this information from, is all the news outlets kind of have their own ideas of who they want or what side they're on and kind of
how they use the words to say it. Like
they portray it. Yeah, it's almost like communism because you're only going to hear what you want to hear. So if you want to hear a certain way, turn on MSNBC. If you want to hear another way, turn on CNN. If you want to hear something else, turn on Fox.
I don't like that at all.
Yeah, journalism should be journalism.
Exactly.
You're instead of abandoning the truth, you should be searching for the truth.
Yeah, because they're saying Trump to be arrested for something like. You mean Trump should be arrested for something that already happened, and the statute of limitations on this case in New York City is 2 years, and you're talking about maximum 2016.
Well, I think Kamala Harris should be arrested.
I think they should all be arrested.
It was funny when she got asked a question. She was like, I forget what show she was on, but they were like, what does a vice president do? And she goes, Joe Biden's a great president. Yeah, I love Joe Biden. I get a lot of advice from Joe Biden because he was a vice president.
She's like, and because he's the president, he presidents. And he's so good.
The police should have just been like, excuse me.
Yeah, he's so good at presidenting
Mrs. Harris.
That he's presidential. Listen, just be good at your job and we won't pick on you.
Yeah.
Listen.
But that's funny.
Pray for Kamala.
Yeah.
And I pronounced her name right. She don't like when you call her Kamala. She don't. So just switch that pronunciation around.
Yeah.
So while we're on the topic of good journalism, James O'Keefe is starting a new organization. In case you don't know, James O'Keefe was recently fired from Project Veritas for unknown reasons. They said he took too many limousine rides and had too much food on the company dime or something. I don't know. It's real ridiculous. It just so happens right after he exposed Pfizer, he got fired. Yeah. I mean, hey, I'm not much for conspiracy theories, but man, if it's right in your face, smack it.
Yeah, he made Project Veritas.
Yeah,
it's just crazy how he got just bought out of it.
Yeah,
how does that happen?
That's like if Mr. Johnson gets fired from Johnson & Johnson. Right. What are you going to call the company? Johnson?
Yeah, but how did that happen? Do you know?
Well, what happened was the Pfizer story, and it's obvious because it's like after he did the Pfizer story, a week later, they're like, James O'Keefe is gone. It's like, it's like, listen, you expose something. Anytime you get close to people, like for example, let's talk biblically. Anytime you get close to a person's sin when you're counseling them, what's the first thing they do? They bail out of the conversation.
Or they finger point.
Oh, yeah. It's not me, it's them.
Yeah.
So what's happening? He got really close to Pfizer's sin. This is my personal opinion. This is not actual fact. I mean, the Lord knows, though. But I mean, listen, you get close. So what did he do? And this is what I love. So now he's taking journalism a step further. And we love James O'Keefe here.
Yeah, definitely.
So when you come to Long Island and
hit us up.
It's great. Like,
hit us up. We got cameras.
They just busted some guy in Nassau County, Project Veritas, too. But I'm like, it's
really?
not the same without James. Yeah, they busted one of the school superintendents for
what?
For a lot of the rhetoric, like saying, we don't let people that are Republican, that vote Republican or conservative, work at our schools. We find ways to out them and stuff like that. Yeah,
wow,
really bad stuff. Shame on you.
Shame.
So he started O'Keefe. Yeah, he started O'Keefe Media Group, acronym OMG.
That's pretty funny.
Yeah, isn't that great, dude? Like OMG, like LMJ, like I don't know where that came from, but but he started O'Keefe Media Group, and now he's doing something that a lot of people should have thought about before, but he's quite genius in what he does. So James O'Keefe got started off kind of like trolling people in high positions that just follow these crazy ideologies.
Right.
So he was on a college campus. I can't remember which one it was. This is how he met Dennis Prager. He went to college campus and he said that he was Irish and he was offended about Lucky Charms, and he wanted Lucky Charms removed from the school, and they removed it so they wouldn't offend Irish people.
Really?
Dead serious. It's the funniest thing in the world.
That's funny.
And sure enough, because his last name was O'Keefe, they were like, listen, man, we got to get that cereal out of here. This poor guy is being offended.
Huh.
Yeah. Don't go to college if you don't want to be offended. Rule number one. So anyway, O'Keefe Media Group is building an army of investigators and exposers along with the most elite journalists in the world. In the coming months, you will see this army expanding across the country, every state house, every city council, every school board, and everywhere people are conspiring to keep themselves in power, practice favoritism, or line their pockets with tax dollars. This comes from
so
the
just
Western
be careful
Standard.
Because you never know, you'll be on candid camera.
You'll be on candid.
He actually the footage he gets is pretty incredible.
Yeah, but now he's giving cameras to the public. Like you can sponsor him, get cameras, and go out there. And he's basically telling people, "You're the news. Go get them."
Yeah,
and we are. You should go get them because these people are spreading lies that are actually hurting the world.
Yeah.
So listen, any lies. I don't care what side of the aisle they're on. If they're wrong, they're wrong. Go get them.
Go get them.
That's it. So getting to the topic of the night.
The topic
of the night is. Where'd you get that from?
Where did you get that from?
So we're talking about where you get your ideals from. Like our ideals are shaped from influence a lot of the times, from bad advice.
Well, it's your worldview. Yeah, it's kind of the way you process information.
So you kind of have to ask, like, where you get your information from, and which is the most important thing when you're when you're thinking about the source of it all, you know? So you have to ask that.
Straight from the Beastie Boys.
That's it, yes.
Where did you get your information from?
Beastie Boys are the devil.
Yeah.
I'm just joking. I love them. So I mean, that's an important question. Where do you get your information from? How do you know that what you're doing is right? And of course, you'd have to ask the question. If you ask that question, you have to ask the question, where do you get your standard of truth from?
Yeah.
Yeah.
By what authority do you put your standard?
By what authority?
What authority do you put your standards at?
Yeah, and that's.
No, I knew. We put out a post the last show, I think it was, right, when we were talking about that we need to be less and we need to put God first, and you know we did like a little image of it was you.
Why did everybody hate
and
that?
We're small, and it was just like there was people that hated the image, but it was like, okay, but you don't, before you sit there and say, okay, this is stupid, but you don't even know what. Well, yeah, you know what is the premise of it? And the premise,
what is your foundation of saying this is stupid or is this true?
You know, you don't even know what it's about.
All right, so just so everybody's
I love
clear,
that comment. One comment was like, your philosophy is all wrong.
Philosophy can't be wrong. It's philosophy.
That's what I'm saying.
What are you talking
Philosophy is just a love for wisdom. Like
that's
a
it.
search for
Philosophia, two Greek words.
Yeah.
Philo meaning wisdom. I mean it's love, and Sophia meaning wisdom. It's a love for wisdom. So it's a constant search for wisdom. And the Bible is not philosophy. It's not philosophy. And that's the thing. People like it's not philosophy. Philosophy is saying possibly this, possibly this, possibly that. The Bible is saying, no, this is what it is. Right. You know? And it's just so real quick, we put out a post, and it, for some reason, it ticked off a lot of people. And there was some guy writing in. He was just like, one guy said, the chart doesn't make sense. It's like, we're keying it into the show. It wasn't for you to sit there and analyze.
Right.
Like, you know,
right.
it wasn't,
right.
you know? And okay, so here's the thing that really blew my mind though. Okay, I'm just being real. I'm sorry if anybody gets hurt over this. But actually, I'm not sorry.
No.
Fact of the matter is,
if you comment.
Yes. We had more problems trying to reason with the people that say they believe in God than the atheists.
Right.
That's wild.
And if you're going to comment, don't block yourself.
Yeah, like if we block you,
we have no problem making good having conversations.
I don't even care if you like if there's some profanities, whatever. Everybody's seen them, but like
not too much. No,
but some of the guys, we shut it down when it gets ridiculous because you're not willing to talk. But what's crazy is that there was a few people actually willing to talk.
Yeah.
And even though we didn't agree, we ended the conversation respectfully.
Right.
And honorably. Like there was guys that started off cursing that were just like, listen, man, you know what? I'm sorry.
For being so harsh.
For being so harsh. You know, like total gentlemen. And these are the conversations we need to have. We don't have to agree on what we believe in.
Well, I think what happens too is people get so passionate and then they get angry because they want to believe something so much that as soon as they see something, it's kind of like
that challenges it.
Yeah, well, we call like say a worldview. It's kind of like those glasses you put on. So if you put on a pair of red glasses, everything you look at is going to have that red tint to it.
Absolutely.
So it depends on where you have your beliefs and your belief system. When you look at certain things, you're going to see facts differently than we do. Yeah. But we can also have a conversation. I could kind of give you an idea of what I'm seeing and how I see it. Yeah. And you could do the same, and we can reciprocate in a conversation.
Yeah.
Easy.
Yeah.
Easy. And you don't have to get mad. You don't have to get angry.
That's the thing. The people that started off a little angry and even said offensive things actually were the ones who wanted to continue the conversation and actually said things like, okay, I could see where you're coming from with that. I don't agree with this, but I could see where you're coming from with that. And the believers were just like, no, King James only. That's it. Like, listen, like, I think there's a lot more to
respect my authority.
Yeah, I think there's a lot more to Jesus than just what we deem theology. Yeah. There's revelation through these interactions that we have. And I think we cut ourselves off when we prioritize theology over the relationship and the conversation that we're happening. We got to get to theology ultimately.
Right.
But you can't get to theology if you can't even get past the first couple of words. Moral of the story, be like Jesus.
Yeah.
That's it.
That's it.
It's hard. Super hard.
And also, like when you're going after information, just understand where you're getting your information from.
Yeah, like I mean, there's a lot of warped ideals wrapped around things that don't fit the nature of God.
Right.
You know, and people love to feed on that. And it's like, but how are we going to get there if you're so set on where you're getting your information from?
Yeah.
You know, like we're not trying to offer you advice. We're trying to offer you a perspective.
Right. Especially because we look at, the Bible as one of the most respected and the most trusted, I'm talking just in historical antiquities.
Context. Yeah.
Like
if you base it on that,
textual criticism, like if you look at the Bible, it's like one of the best sources that you could say, okay, this has the most legitimate artifacts and sources and findings that you could say, hey, this is consistently true.
And you know what the one book archaeologists use when they dig out there?
Yeah.
The Bible. Go figure.
El Bible.
And they're not out there like, oh man, Samson was a fool. They're not doing that. They're saying, okay, this is where the Bible said that this location happened. Let's dig here. And they dig there and they find exactly what the Bible said. So like, where are you getting it from?
It's so I looked up, there's this really good research sites called Pew Research.
I use Pew all the time. Yeah, that's where I get a lot of my statistics
Yeah, and
from.
it says almost everybody, most people in the United States, even journalists, use websites to get their information.
So what's the percentages on these?
Like,
things?
okay, so like Twitter is like one of the use of social media for journalists to do their jobs. So that's how they kind of go after like information and they get it from different people. So Twitter's a big one. Facebook is huge. Instagram, and this is the platforms that they use. But as far as like information, like most people get it off of a smartphone.
Okay, so your phone is now the TV you used to sit in front of when you were a kid.
Yeah, and it's usually not even like a news station or something you're watching.
It's like social media.
Feeds. Yes, it's social media.
Feeds. It's TikToks. It's like, guess what happened? Donald Trump's about to get arrested for rape. And it's like, whoa.
You don't got the whole context. You don't got all that stuff. Yeah.
Guess what? Sean makes pie charts on the internet that people hate. That's actually
ages
factual.
18 to 29, like 83% of people from 18 through 89 get like their information from Twitter or Facebook.
Now, ironically enough, that's why it's very important where you get your information from.
Yeah.
Because if you like we have very conservative viewpoints. It doesn't mean that I hate anyone who has any other viewpoint.
And when we say conservative, we don't mean the party.
Yeah, we're not talking about
a party.
Republican. We're talking about biblical conservatism.
Yeah.
Like, and even there's a division in that. There's progressive Christianity and there's conservative Christianity.
I don't know what that means.
And it's like, why isn't there just Christianity?
Yeah.
And this is the problem. This is why our churches don't look like the Book of Acts. Because of that right there.
Right.
So when we say conservative, we mean like the Book of Acts. This is what we believe in, and the proper interpretation of the Book of Acts, not like saying like men are the leader of the household because we imprison our wives in the basement, barefoot and pregnant.
Yeah.
Like that's people's interpretation of what that says.
Right.
But what we know that God's revealed through that word and what works in the world evidentially, like the practices that we practice work. They strengthen our households. They make our relationships better. And so when we get advice from people that either have a good understanding of what that word means or a better understanding than us. Like you're not going to go to, if you want advice on fixing your car, you're not going to go to a lifeguard because he knows swimming in the water. He doesn't know, changing trannies or something like that, or what's this problem going on with my car. You're not going to go to a plumber to find out how to paint your house, and you ain't going to go to Donald Trump if you want to know about Joe Biden, I'm joking. But you got to go to.
Speaking of that, I seen something real funny the other day. I know this is off subject, but I was driving behind somebody. Well, yeah, I was driving behind somebody, and they had a bumper sticker, and it said, "Pray for Biden, Psalms 109:8."
Okay, what's Psalms 109:8 then? That's important. And I do believe you should pray for Biden. I'm not against that. I know,
but and I thought that too. I was like, oh wow, this person wants to pray for Biden. And I was like, oh, I looked it up, and it says, "May his days be few, may another take his office."
All right, that's not very. That's not very Jesus.
It says, Psalm 109:8. May his days be few, may another take his office. Yo, I thought it was the funniest thing because I actually looked it up, not while I was driving.
See, the Bible got jokes too. Oh, that is great.
Oh, that was good. It was good. I had to add that in.
I don't care if that's off topic. That's actually funny. People are terrible. That's so great. But no, seriously, pray for Biden genuinely. Don't pray.
Yeah.
There's more to that psalm. Anyway.
There's a lot more to that psalm.
Oh man. So what? So what are the relationships most affected by outside influence? What do you think?
When you're seeking someone that doesn't have good relationships.
All right. So but which relationships do you think that people seek? Okay, marriage. What else?
Yeah. Children. Relationship between children.
Your professional trade, perhaps.
Yeah, but I think marriage is one of the biggest ones because one rule of thumb is you really don't want to go to just anybody to speak about problems in your marriage. Way. Yeah, because usually, especially, my one thing is like, don't go to family. That's number one. All right,
yeah. So
it's hard when you go to family because they're biased against you. And also I wouldn't go to someone who isn't good in a relationship, hasn't had a good relationship. Not very good at,
like, for example, if your parents don't have a good relationship, like if they're divorced and they're at each other's throats, you probably don't want to complain about your marital issues with them.
Right.
They're probably not. And I know that's your parents. I know you may love them, but just because you love someone doesn't mean that their advice is actually good for you.
Right.
Like there's some people that are close to me that I would not go to marriage advice with, not because I don't love them. It's like you said, it's either they're biased or they're just not very good at it.
Yeah.
So I talk with a marriage couple. They've been married for 40 years almost. You know what? Yeah. I could learn something there.
Right.
Because I haven't been married for 40 years.
Right.
Sean's been married for like 78 years now.
Right. Yeah.
They met like, that was predestination.
Well, and it still feels like it's new.
Yeah, well,
that's only because I'm still learning. That's one thing is like even when you're searching for information, don't think you've learned it all. I mean, that's one thing about gaining knowledge is that you're constantly doing it. So if even in a relationship, if you have a relationship, just always know that you don't totally know that person.
You don't. You can't. You never could.
Truly know that person all the way.
I think one of the most interesting things with me was like I stopped going to a lot of people. Like I might share an instance with a couple of friends like, oh man, this is crazy. Like, you do your normal complaining.
Yeah.
But when it comes to like the real deep conversations, like I'll go to you and I'll go to like 1-2 other people max. That's it.
Right.
And I won't go to some people that are close to me because number one, I know that they'll keep it to themselves. And number two, they won't tell me they never tell me what I want to hear, which is like the hardest part.
Yeah.
That's how you know you're getting good advice because it usually goes against everything.
Especially when you're in those situations, because you can go to somebody with advice, like something practical and say, hey, you know what? I need advice on this. And they can give you the best that they can advice on something. But
I'm going to try that.
Right. Yeah. But usually when you go to somebody with advice and you're just looking for validation rather than actually trying to fix your problem.
Yeah, it's like, I'm right?
Yeah, right. And then when people get agree with you, sometimes it's like, no, wait, you got to look at it differently.
Yeah. It's not what you pour out to people that matters. It's what matters is what they say back to you and how it affects you.
Yeah.
If it doesn't offend you, they're probably not giving you good advice because a good friend is supposed to challenge you. Now, why do we say the Bible is the true authority on these matters? Because everything that the Bible tells you will offend you. Guaranteed. Every single time when you're having a problem, because it's going to challenge you to be a better version of you. And what does it mean to be a better version of you? It means to be more sacrificial. It means to be more kind. everything that your body and your heart is telling you not to be.
Yeah.
Like your heart transformation comes with these practices. But man, you got to know people. Like, for example, like as a believer, I go to people that are believers that either know the word of God well and have testimonies to that, or know it better than me.
Yeah.
So when they come to me, they say, well, listen, you got to be careful. This doesn't necessarily just mean that. It's also pertaining to this. They know context. There's a lot of things to it.
Yeah, and also like the way the Bible teaches is that God knows everything about you, and going to Him, I mean, He's the one who can. Yeah, He's the one that can best direct you. Although going to those that are godly men and women also.
Watch out there too,
because it's the person giving the advice or the counsel. So if I'm going to go to somebody, that I'm seeking good counsel from, I'm going to go to somebody that actually has a foundation and is strong in their faith, because their decision making, your decision making, when you make decisions, are better when you're seeking God first, because then your alignment to what is right and what is good and what is truthful is going to come out.
Yeah. So how do you go to God first? Number one, you pray first and foremost. That should be your first line of defense against evil, devilish attacks on your marriage that usually have a lot more to do with you just making bad decisions.
Yeah. I think of 139 when I think about how God knows you. Psalm 139 says, "Oh Lord, you have searched me and know me. You know when I sit down and when I rise up. You discern my thoughts from afar. You search my paths and my lying down, and you are acquainted with all my ways. Even before a word is in my tongue, behold, O Lord, you know it altogether."
Yeah, that's why I say I get my answers from God really quick. I think we all get our answers from God really quickly. We just ignore it.
Oh, yeah. Well, it's kind of like when you get a wrong answer from someone that you're looking for the answer that you want.
It's wrong.
You're like, nah, I don't agree with you.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, that's why I think we get a lot of disagreements even when we post something or do something. It's like, you know what? You're disagreeing because, and you can see it, a lot of it's the shaking of the fist. Like, hey, you know what? You're wrong.
Like we got a lot of that.
Not just like, hey, I think I disagree with you. No, it's like, you're wrong. You need to shut up.
And it's crazy because like the answers that I was giving him, I was like, okay, it's time to channel my inner Jesus, because if I don't, it's going to be ugly. So I answered them.
The Jesus filter.
I answered them reminding myself that these are image bearers of God that He created with love. Yeah. And I am to treat them as such because He died for them as well, not just me. Whether you choose to accept the gift or not, He died for them as well. So I'm like, all right. I'm like, listen, so a lot of the things they said, oh yeah, well the church does this and the church does that. I'm like, yeah, you're absolutely right. Yeah. The church has done that. But I ask you, what does the guilt of the church have to do with the sovereign hand of the Father? Like, you can't just, that's like saying like, if I got into a car accident and I killed somebody's dog, is it my dad's fault?
Right.
No. Like, oh, well, your dad taught you, but I have the free will to ignore his teaching.
Yeah.
So a lot of times I know from jump that a lot of people aren't rejecting God. They're rejecting the ambassadors of God, and sometimes with good reason and sometimes through ignorance. But you still have to treat them with respect if you ever want to have the real conversation with them.
Definitely. Definitely. Yeah. And we, as Christians, like we said, we look at the Bible as the authority, right?
Yeah.
And we see it as the final authority. It's unquestionable. So for our life and the way we live our lives, especially even in matters of life, or just like the church too, in faith that we do it. But we don't always, it doesn't mean that that's the only authority we look at either.
No, because the Bible specifically talks about the earthly authorities.
Yeah.
And obeying the earthly authorities.
Yeah, but we also, we put that up as our standard. So when we talk to somebody and you say, okay, well, what standard is what standard of truth do you hold that from your whatever you're saying?
Hold on to your brains for this one.
Yeah. What standard of truth is it? And we say Bible, but a lot of people want us to say, okay, put that aside. Put your standard aside. And then what? What do you have? Because most of the time it's people actually taking from our worldview, because
that's
without God, you can't have epistemology.
Yeah. So I'd
you
ask
can't
them
have
that, yeah.
the knowledge. You can't have wisdom. You can't have any of that without the start of God.
And exactly. So you put the Bible aside and talk to me about truth.
Right.
You have to.
You have to.
You'd have to if you're not a believer, because what you're doing is you're picking and choosing what works for you and running with that and just negating everything else. And when the everything else comes into play, you want to say things like, "Oh, well, why did this person do that?" Listen, if you're talking about God himself, trust me, you have a desire to get to know him then. You don't ask about people you don't want to get to know.
Right.
Whether it's for the right or the wrong reasons.
Yeah.
So you put the Bible aside if you expect us to put the Bible aside in a conversation like that, because you get your worldview from the Bible as well, and you don't even know it because you don't know where you get your information from. What that is a lot of the Bible has become cultural tradition for the Western world, so much that we don't even know we get it from the Bible.
Yeah.
You know? Now, believers, as people who study the Bible, we look at it as, okay, as Sean was saying, where do you get your standard of truth from? I know you may not agree in my standard of truth. I'm coming from an area of authority that you won't respect. So if you want to put the Bible aside, funny thing too is even if I put the Bible aside, I could still prove to you it works without the Bible.
Yeah. And I think this is where philosophies do come in, because philosophies do have to deal with, moral and ethics, so you have to deal with, in that truth of morality. There was a good thing in this website. It's called Truth Story. It's really good. And it says, like, pretend you're an atheist, and in your atheist mind, us humans are just cosmic accident floating cosmic blobs
of protoplasm
on a remote rock in the cold and dying universe. We're just stardust, as the old saying goes. That's standard understanding in the atheistic worldview. If that's true, what makes killing mentally ill children wrong?
See, that's a conversation that arouses a lot of anger when we start talking about it.
Right.
That's like, that's even a denominational issue. I don't know how, but it is.
Right.
So like,
and that's dealing with morality, because even like you say,
like if a person is not conscious in the sense of their own autonomy, for example, then they're not worthy of life.
Right.
Okay. So,
or position.
If you're in intensive care and you're being held alive by a machine, then we can kill you.
Yeah, and it's also position, like with the abortion thing. A lot of people, even with abortion,
it's terrible.
They just say because it hasn't been born yet. Okay, but it's just because it's in a different position than you are. It's in the mother's womb. It's different.
But it still has the potential for life, just like somebody recovering from an accident.
Right.
So what's the difference? But these are all arguments that we make because our standard of truth comes from different places. Like, it doesn't even matter. Today, the actual scientific truth is being countered by saying you don't know science, which is mind-boggling.
And it's tough using science because science is an observable fact.
Well, that's the thing.
And there's things like morals and ethics. I mean, you can see good things, like they say, like, philosophy, you want to talk philosophy. Most of the time, that if something's going to hurt you, right? Yeah. If I punch you right now, you're going to be hurt.
It's going to hurt.
And I would know that.
Or at least tomorrow it would hurt worse.
And I know that. So in my mind, people say, well, really? So you think that I'm not going to hurt you because I know it's going to hurt?
That's not exactly true.
Right. So, but at the same time, but why? Does it matter?
Yeah.
Okay.
And asking the deeper questions
to go deeper
really
than that.
People off.
Yeah, because people are like, well, because as a being, as we know these things that that I could not hurt you.
But how do you?
How do you know?
How do you know?
How do you know it?
So that's the thing. So how do you know something is immoral? How do you know the advice that you're giving is good or bad? You have to have a standard of truth that goes along with that. Now, truth is usually defined by exploring the outcome of the practice.
Right.
So if I say, okay, walking a couple of miles a day will increase my circulation. That is scientifically proven. Exercise improves circulation, scientifically proven. Am I good at them? Not right now, but it's still scientifically proven.
Do I want to do them?
No,
not right now.
Not right now.
Yeah.
But but these things are scientifically proven. That is a fact. So a lot of the things that people rebel against in the Bible actually work out factually. Like, for example, I got these stats. These I thought were really interesting. So, so one of the most important things that I thought about is like, who do we go to get our advice from? And what it turns out is that the people that we're going to get our advice from to counsel for marriage, for example, to counsel in how we handle our relationships, any type of social aspect and stuff like that. So check these stats out. Occupational therapists and all these different people, what is their rate of divorce and separation, right?
Yeah. That's
so
right.
Sociologists, their rate of divorce is 23.5%. Social workers, 23%. Excuse me, counselors, 22%. Miscellaneous social scientists and workers, 19.65%, and psychologists, 19.3%. The overall divorce rate in America is like what, 51%, right? And where we view, well, not we, but a lot of people view the world as like this male patriarchy, women are the ones getting divorced. Men are not divorcing women for other women. Men are the ones that actually want to stay divorced now, and women are divorcing men for what they deem is a better partner based on socioeconomic statuses. Right. This is what we're dealing with right now. But the people that are trying to save us from this have the lowest divorce rates, and we're not listening to them. That's crazy.
Well, that's the way of the world right now. I mean, even like the information that you're finding online are people that are writing blogs or things like that. What's your credential to give me that advice?
I'm glad podcasts came around because what was going around before these podcasts are terrible. Like, I'm sorry, forgive me, but have you ever seen the Red Table, Jada Pinkett show?
No. And I'm glad I haven't.
I saw like a couple of clips of it, and I was like,
I
threw up in my mouth. Here's the thing. It's her mother, right? These are older women, which I get. That part I get. But then you bring your like 15, 16-year-old daughter in there to talk about women's issues and topics. She's a child.
Yeah.
If anybody got wisdom from Willow on that show, you need to repent.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. Like, this is where we get our information from. Listen, you could say what you want. I really don't care, but I don't think I'm going to go to a 16-year-old kid about being a man.
Right.
You know, I'm not going to sit there and be like, "Oh, you're so brave for doing something that everybody does." I'm not going to do that. I just think it's a fool's card, you know, and an unreasonable ask to sit there and listen to it without gouging your ears out. But so what does the Bible say about counsel? How does the Bible direct you towards seeking counsel? This is really good. So Proverbs 11:14, which you always got to go to Proverbs. Where there is no guidance, a people falls, but in abundance of counselors, there is safety. Why? Because you don't get caught up in you.
Right.
Very easy to get caught up in you. And, you know, and so when you make plans, the Bible talks a lot about this, actually. When you make plans, remember that your plans are limited, but God's plans are always true and perfect, right? Why is that? Because God will steer you away from things in the ways that offend you the most, usually to put you in a position to actually have progress in your promise and your positioning that He needs you in. So 16:1 through 33, I'm going to kind of keep this simple. The plans of the heart belong to a man, but the answer of his tongue is from the Lord. All the ways of a man are pure in his own eyes, but the Lord weighs the spirit. Commit your work to the Lord, and your plans will be established.
Right. So right there, it's telling you that your
perspective.
Yeah, your perspective. Plan. Seek the Lord.
And people are like, well, I'm not going to seek somebody who is invisible and I can't hear his audible voice, but you trust people that are flawed. You trust people that make mistakes all the time. It's like, so why are you so afraid of trying something new? Like, if what you're doing is not improving your life, honestly, what do you have to lose?
Yeah.
Like, seriously, I mean, it just doesn't make sense that, you know, people complain about the hardships in their lives, and then when you tell them stop complaining and do something about it, they get mad and they walk away.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, I get it because I want to walk away. There's sometimes Sean tells me some stuff. It's like the whole being sorry for myself thing, I got mad. So it's like, you're being sorry for yourself. I'm like, oh, I want to walk away right now, but I couldn't, because I know somewhere in that frustration that I felt, something was shifting and unlocking. So I had to sit on it for a while, and I was like, yeah, what am I complaining about? What am I feeling sorry for myself? See, that's the thing. We don't have the luxury of feeling sorry for ourselves for long. Eventually, hopefully quickly, we say, you know what? I'm sitting here telling people that I know God.
Right.
And I go to counsel, and I go for counsel. I get counsel, and I'm ready to walk away. I can't do those. That's a double-minded act.
Yeah.
So what I have to do is I say, okay, I processed it, and I'm like, I'm telling people that I know God, but yet I'm feeling sorry for myself. I don't have to feel sorry for myself. I'm covered.
Yeah.
Like I'm gonna be fine. Like, you know what? It was my character change that I needed to do. My character change, not my external circumstances. Not saying, oh, these people need to change. I had went and I got advice, and the advice was hard, but I took it. So next time, I mean, try this. Anybody, try this. If you have an issue, right, and you feel like you want to do something to set yourself on that ground, do the exact opposite. Just try it. It's not easy.
Yeah.
It's so not easy, but it's effective. So, excuse me, I'm trying to not be rude. Ooh.
Yeah. So yeah, I mean, what we tend to not look at is not just the authority of Scripture, but it's the authority of Jesus Christ.
Yeah.
It's looking at him as the authority. The reason why we say, seek the Lord is because then when you said Lord, it's putting him, it's like making Christ the Lord of your life. Is when somebody's saying that, is making him the ultimate authority in everything that you do, your decision making. And we'd love to do a show like that in the future and call it, the Christ filter, because it should be
Jesus filter.
The Jesus filter. It should be, everything that you do.
You have to filter yourself through all.
You put your submission into his authority first. Yeah. And how do you do that?
You act like him.
Yeah. And how do you know how to do that?
You get to know God. You keep that relationship. You see what the Bible is trying to tell you. You see, now you have to unleash it in prayer too, which is the most important start. You have to do that. You have to keep channeled into what God is doing, and also who God is putting around you to give messages to as well. It's a culmination of a lot of different things. The best decisions I've made in my life and in my marriage are when I stopped and I acted like Jesus. Literally. That's really the simplest way. Right. I say, okay, so Jesus would love this person. Jesus would comfort this person, even though this person is persecuting them. And I'm like, I'm glad I ain't Jesus, because I'm struggling right now. People, and listen, it's hard, but there's nothing of benefit in your life that isn't hard. Yeah. Sorry. Yeah. If it comes easy, it's just more comfort, But that's why it's important to find counsel in the right areas.
Definitely. Yeah. And what did the centurion say when he came to Jesus? What was his name? Cornelius?
Probably.
Yeah. So, and he was just like, hey, his kid,
all you got to do is say it.
His kid, yeah. He was like, hey, I have authority. I tell this person to do that. I tell this person to do that. They do it. I tell them to get up, they get up. I tell them to go, they go. He's like, all you have to do is just say it.
Like, your authority supersedes my authority, and this is an example of my faith.
Right.
That's hardcore.
And it so supersedes it that the creation comes out of your mouth.
Yeah. And now see, that's a good point. Where does that come from?
Right.
So like if you want to talk about the creation and the manifestation of God, and the existence of everything in that statement, in the beginning, God spoke it. John 1, in the beginning, there was the Word was with God, and the Word was God. I'm not trying to get too off topic, but this is a very important part to it. Like the Bible is not just some set of stories. It's a collection of all these different books that tell the same story from different people over time. And what it boils down to is exactly what Sean was just talking about. The authority behind God's word is the truth, period. Not just because it hasn't been, just because I say that. It's because it's been tried and it works. You know, and when you talk about the deity of Jesus and the importance of why, like, which is our whole thing. Our whole thing is Jesus. Is what separates us from every other belief system in the world. Is that we have one thing that everybody doesn't have, and that's an answer for our mistakes. You know, somebody's paying for them. There's no other worldview that has that. Every other worldview is going to tell you that you can fix those mistakes, but you can't.
Right.
I could not fix my own mistakes on my own. I needed something. And the only answer that I found was the one person that could do it, and that was Jesus. And that's really it. And the reason why that deity is so important to what we believe is because that is our standard of truth. Historically, evidentially true. And it works. I mean, I don't think anybody's going to have the tolerance for human ignorance that he did. You know what I mean? So like when you're dealing with people that you may deem ignorant, or even worse, you may think you're smarter than, remember, it's not going to work. You're not going to influence people and watch people change into something better by becoming worse than they are in the moment.
Yeah.
It's just not going to happen. So when we seek counsel, I seek counsel of the people that best reflect Jesus.
Right. And then when you take that counsel and it reflects Jesus, just like the centurion, I found it was in actually Matthew chapter 8, verse 5. Doesn't say it was Cornelius. I was just thinking Cornelius.
That's some racist Roman stuff.
It's just centurion. Yeah, but who knows? Maybe it was Cornelius. But so he believed it. Like before Jesus even said it, he believed that Jesus could do it just by saying it.
That's faith.
That's why he said it's his faith, because Jesus was like, I'll come heal him. But the centurion replied, Lord, I'm not worthy of you even having come into my roof, but only the word and my servant will be healed.
That's it.
For I too am a man of authority. He says, I tell this person this, so he knows that the authority is a commanding authority.
That opens up a whole huge conversation, but
it's a commanding authority.
It's an important conversation.
Yeah. So when Jesus says something, what does it say in Matthew when it says, go preach all, go to all the world and preach, you see, and make disciples, of the nations, preach them and teach them everything other, because I have authority. He says, because all authority has been given to me.
Yeah. And it's crazy because people use that against Christians as to saying like, oh, if it had to be given to him, then he is not the Father. Well,
but he's not the Father.
But here's the thing. But he is of the essence of the Father, which is the same thing.
Yeah, that's a whole conversation on the Trinity. But yeah. But he's not. He's the same essence, but not the same person.
No, because and neither is the Holy Spirit. It's totally different.
And speaking of the Holy Spirit, what does it say? It says he's the great counselor. Yeah. Right. Mm-hmm. It teaches us all things.
That's what I was trying to get at.
Right.
The different, it's not different attributes. It's different roles.
Yeah.
Right. It's like a family structure. Everybody's got different roles. It's like a business structure. Everybody's got a different role, but it's under the umbrella of the family itself. It's under the umbrella of the company itself.
Right.
That if you view God through that lens, it gives you a better understanding of why we believe what we believe.
Yeah. And John 14, 16 through 17. I will ask the Father, and he will give you another helper, and he may be with you forever.
Yeah.
That is the Spirit of truth, whom the world cannot receive, because it does not see him or know him, but you know him, because he abides with you and will be in you.
And that's another part of what Genesis was referencing to. When we create man, we create it in the image of us.
Right.
He said us, like it's an important thing to remember.
Yeah. And I think it's also a good thing to know that having the Spirit within us, when we're reading the Scripture, that's what enlightens the Scripture to us. Yeah. Is the Spirit. Because I don't know about you, every time you read it, I've
the great counselor.
Yeah. Every time I read it, I'm like, it's exactly what I needed for that time.
I love when people look at you like you're crazy. You're like, oh, I've read that 5 times and I get it totally different now. And they're just like, and they just see words.
Yeah.
It's different when it actually unfolds to you and it starts speaking to you. You're just like, man, people are like, these guys are crazy.
Yeah.
It's like praying in the parking lot. People look at you. These guys are crazy. But thank God I don't look for their approval in what I'm doing.
Yeah.
You know, I've already been told what to do by the right source. So
that's right.
Be careful who you ask.
Yeah. So basically, I think the truth and the facts that you search for can't really adequately be explained.
No, it can't.
You know, or recognized without first having the source of God.
And which is one of the reasons why I guess people aren't affected by it that aren't seeking it.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, and we're going to study this more because I love this topic, and
it's like brain explosion.
And sometimes you got to be, you know, I have a little bit of a head cold, so I'm kind of like, I'm trying to think of things, and it's just like when you get the cloudiness, it's like reading a book. All of a sudden, you just read like 3 pages, and you're like,
yeah,
what was that? I don't even remember what I just read.
Too well. But nonetheless,
be
very careful who you get your advice from.
Yeah.
Because you yourself may not be capable of giving it yourself.
Yeah. So next week, we're doing something different.
Next week.
Yeah.
March 31st, Worship United.
Worship United. We're actually going to just go live. It's going to be on a Friday night in Huntington.
No, Massapequa. At Eastgate Church.
Right. Eastgate Church, Massapequa.
Ready.
Yeah.
Get ready. It's going to be a crazy
We'll be there.
night.
We're going to go live shortly, but then we're just
go
going
there yourself if you're on Long Island.
We're gonna go live shortly. We're going to do some interviews. We're going to check people out. We're going to worship God is what we're going to do.
And it's going to be awesome.
Yeah.
And we're going to go to town hall after that and start some trouble. I'm joking. We're not going to do that.
We're not going to do that. We're going to go to the street corner and preach the gospel.
Yeah.
That's what we're doing. Peace.